All right, welcome back everyone to StarLadder Early Star Series Season 2. I'm Noxious, and with me is Firebat for the last match of the day. We'll be closing this off at the end to see who ends up moving on to the Day 3.
Yep.
Basically for
Day
free.
3. Is it going to be Xieshuai or is it going to be StanCifka?
Yeah, we've had already the matchup StanCifka and Jab, so there was a chance there was going to be a repeat of that, but Xieshuai ended up taking it over Jab. And StanCifka will face off against another opponent. Now, both of them are banning Shaman, rather expected, I think. And they're running a similar lineup, aside from the Rogue on StanCifka's side being represented by the Hunter on Xieshuai's side. It's the exact same classes. No big surprise there as far as the lineups go for at least 3 or 4 of the classes.
Yeah, so I think it gives StanCifka an edge at the end of the day. Like, you see mirror match, mirror match, mirror match, mirror match, and then you say Rogue's favored against Hunter. So then it comes down to that, sort of. And then there's some subtle differences as well in the lineup with the choice of Dragon Warrior and the choice of Cthulhu Warrior. So overall, though, I think Cthulhu Warrior is more favored, especially StanCifka's anti-aggro build, than Dragon Warrior.
Well, I was going to say, the Warlock is a big thing for Xieshuai because it is the Reno lock. These two players are both playing Reno Warlock. This is the first time, I think, that we'll see it played. I mean, we saw Xieshuai play it a little bit earlier against 6-0 and ended up not really dropping the game at all. It just kind of steamrolled on the curve, get everything done. But we haven't seen Reno matter at all yet.
Okay. Yeah. Any time that there's a Reno lock mirror, though, I have to give the edge to StanCifka. StanCifka's like just the one of the Reno lock gods, right? You got like Life Coach, StanCifka, and Super JJ.
What's up with that?
They're just like the best Reno lock players all around, right? And then you can kind of throw Tice in there sometimes, and oddly enough, all of these players play together.
Yeah, they have a practice group. We could call it literally the trinity of these guys playing together. Super JJ joined us sometime, I think, late last year. Kind of started playing with them a lot more, and his play improved tremendously after that point. And he started being a lot more comfortable playing different decks. His range of decks also increased a lot. Instead of playing just Rogue,
And
started doing a lot better at everything else. So. It's been good to see. That being said, Xieshuai is the one piloting the Reno lock. As far as the list goes, nothing too out of the ordinary there. We'll see as the game develops. It is the combo version and not the N'Zoth version, which is
honestly gives him an edge in the Reno lock
exactly
by a huge margin.
Yeah,
because StanCifka's Reno lock is going to be trying to just play value minions, and then Xieshuai is going to kill him.
Yeah,
and
just straight up.
Yeah.
It's happened before. I mean, there was an interesting Reno lock list from Life Coach playing Dreadsteed.
Okay.
Trying to get kind of an extra bit of damage output during the game instead of getting it early. And kind of works with N'Zoth. But the idea was to substitute the burst for just steady stream of removal plus damage.
Yeah, it's interesting. But anyway, in this game here, Xieshuai is off to not the greatest Reno lock start. It's kind of like a pretty average Reno lock start, right? Like tapping turn. Doing nothing turn 1, tapping turn 2, tapping turn 3. Most of the time, you're not going to hit your Doomsayer into your 3 drop. So it's pretty expected this happens. We see him tap again just so we can get that Mountain Giant out there. And StanCifka has the 1 drop, 2 drop, and he has the 3 drop if he wants to go for it. And then he can even play the 4 drop. And then he can get down the Amber Weaver as the 4/10, and then Mark of the Wild it for the 6/12 taunt.
Yeah, the thing is against Reno lock, if you're going to go for a Mark of the Wild play, it's going to have to be a lot earlier than Siphon Sultan, right? You'd like to either get it just earlier, a little bit earlier, or right afterwards when the Siphon Soul's been used. So that's the big resource you have to consider. So if you're going to play Mark of the Wild, I think it's going to be as early as possible, protecting against Hellfire, protecting against any type of AoE.
I like it.
Yeah, and that's the maximum value you're going to get out of it for the time being.
Sure, yeah, he's pushing quite a bit of damage here, and he has a really big board, resilient against every form of AoE except Mind Control tech, but Mind Control tech's fallen out of favor in Reno lock decks.
Yeah,
quite heavily.
It's kind of interesting too to notice because it seems as though even the decks that play 4 minions, stealing one of them nowadays just doesn't matter.
Yeah, because they're
not sticky,
minions,
right?
Yeah, the other minions are always a 1/1.
Right.
Yeah.
You have like a bunch of tentacles on the board or just a bunch of leftovers from Vile Teacher. So stealing one of them is not impactful. In the era of Naxxramas, it was good. You get a Shield Mini Bot, you get buffed up Haunted Creeper, whatever it was usually going to stick and do more than just die in one hit. Well, it's a bit of a tricky turn for Xieshuai. He does have the Shadow Flame and the Hellfire, so those are things that could help him if he develops something specific. But whatever you do develop is weak to a ton. Assuming you play Giant, there's the Wrath plus
Well, there's the all-face play.
Yeah, there's the ignore your giant play, which almost kills you. There's no burst usually coming out, so you're not too worried. But it's just you don't expect this giant to live. So it's an It's basically an 8 health.
I like the play a 4-10, go all face, and then swipe your opponent in the face and kill him next turn play.
Sure.
I think that's pretty
You've
solid.
got the Disciple of Cthulhu too, which lets you push a tiny bit more. You know, that's another one of those things. And this is going to allow him to... I mean, does he get, like, the Demon Wrath? He's, like, 1 man off of getting a really good clear. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of unfortunate right now for him.
There's no way to stop this impending lethal, is there?
So the Shadow Flame would require that you coil, but because of the 410, it still lives, so you're not out of the woods.
Yeah.
What about Shadow Bolt coil? You'd probably coil first, either way.
Even if he taps into Sun Fury,
it doesn't matter.
Not enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no way to stop this 410 from connecting with his current cards or tapping into something, or there may have not even been a draw in his entire deck that would allow, or like any combination of cards that really gets him out of the woods here. Maybe some sort of...
I think it's down to coil plus Demon Wrath play, where you hope there's really no follow-up to this. Yeah. No Druid of the Claw.
No swipe.
No swipe. But unfortunately for him, StanCifka is going to make short work of the Reno lock with the Cthulhu. You know what? This is kind of the exact opposite of what I anticipate coming out of a Cthulhu Druid versus Reno lock matchup. This was one of the quickest games I think I've seen.
Yeah, sometimes Druid just hits that early game curve, has all of those minions. We saw StanCifka, he had just a perfect curve of minions. He went turn 1, Living Roots, turn 2, you know, the 2-3, and then coin. The
4-2, and the recognition, I think, of the Mark of the Wild play on the 2-3 mattered a ton, because that was like an extra 4 to 6 damage over the course of 3 turns, so that ended up winning the game on its own.
Yeah, you called that play too, and StanCifka agrees with you, closes out the game with it.
It was a good line of play. But I think it's one of those things where you know you're not going to win the long game against Reno Lock if you let it drag on, because once you start dropping your 6 drops like Dark Iroquois, you get Siphon Soul, you get to turn 8, suddenly you have to start gauging how much you really want to commit, which is usually nothing, and then you have to hope that your Cthulhu lands on their Draxus or you lose the game. That doesn't always happen the way you want it.
So you would favor the Reno Warlock more often than the Cthulhu Druid there?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
No, not at all.
Just if the game goes super long.
Right, if it tends to go long, I think usually it's just more of a headache to navigate as a matchup. So...
Yeah, I definitely think Cthulhu Druid's got a pretty solid edge in the matchup overall. You know, it usually doesn't go like that.
Yeah, it doesn't end that way. Usually you'll find that the Druid ends up closing the game with a Cthulhu very late game.
Yeah. But a quick 1-0 lead for StanCifka going up against the rest of Xieshuai's decks here. He's able to get the Druid out. The Druid is expected to most likely get a win regardless.
Of what? Of what it has to win against?
Yeah. Like, it doesn't have any bad matchups. Like, it's got the mirror.
Mid-range Hunter is kind of a pain in the butt, though.
Is it?
It can be, yeah. I think it's one of those decks that can definitely... Like, the Deadly Shots make your mid-game kind of awkward.
Yeah, but you have Roots.
That's right. You're right. There's probably no double Unleash in most Hunter decks, unless they're trying to play for the double Juggler, double Unleash hybrid list that we see nowadays.
I would rather be the Cthulhu Druid than the
absolutely.
The Hunter. Yeah. So here's an interesting matchup, though. We have the Dragon Warrior coming up against the Cthulhu Warrior.
Yeah.
If you look at just standard Dragon Warrior against standard Cthulhu Warrior, which neither of these players are playing like card for card standard. They both have their little bit of tweaks in their decks, but typically speaking, I would have to give the edge a little bit to the Dragon Warrior.
Interesting. I would have said maybe the other way around.
Just because the standard right now is Emperor Brand Doomcaller.
I guess you're right.
Warrior,
I guess you're correct, and that's a bit slower.
So greedy. Yeah, just like so greedy, but we see a lot of the players in tournament format, they don't go with the ladder standard of the deck. They go with their anti-aggro tech versions, and they have cards like Revenge in there. They have cards like, we saw Deathwing in Zixo's version. So,
as well.
You know, just like...
that was cool.
Yeah, StanCifka has the Arathi Weaponsmith, so they have just a bunch of cards to be good against aggro, and they've removed things like Doomcaller, they removed things like Elise that is occasionally sneaks its way into Cthulhu Warrior, so just less win conditions, more removal, basically.
Yeah, the double slam as well in StanCifka's list also helps clean up a lot of those early games. One of the power, I guess, of Fairy Dragons is exactly that, right? Fiery War Axe kills it, but the rest really doesn't.
Yeah,
so
Disciple of Cthulhu and get rid of it, but Yeah, the Fairy Dragon's pretty resilient a lot of the times, and StanCifka not having a War Axe here is under a lot of pressure already.
And one of the cool things as well for Xieshuai is that he knows that his 3-3 either gets answered with War Axe, which, you know, then I just play something like Frauding into it, or he ends up playing for minions, which in this case, usually, unless it's a perfect combination of, you know, Blood to Iker plus something else, ends up being an absolute disaster. And you don't see Blood to Iker doing too much.
Yeah.
Just doesn't work in Cthulhu.
StanCifka does not have great ways to deal with this Frothing Berserker. He's got the old Shield Slam executed, but that seems awful, so he's just going to develop the Disciple of Cthulhu, try and maybe clean it up with a Shield Slam the following turn, but
yeah,
that's going to be a lot of damage coming in really fast, which if Dragon Warrior is able to get off to these fast starts, which, you know, the deck's designed to try and do, then those Dragonoid Crushers become active later on, and if the Cthulhu Warrior is forced to use Shield Slam and Executes to keep up with the early pressure, they're out of answers for the Dragonoid Crushers when they come down as 9/9s later on. So it's really a super snowball-y deck in that sort of sense.
Yeah, and that's exactly why the Alexstras's champion's so good early, is because you're forcing them on the back foot very quickly, and then if they can't answer that one, usually you just spiral out of control off of that 1-2 drop. Now, the fact that he picked up a second one here with the Ravaging Ghoul on the coin buffs up the Frothing even further. Yes, it enables Execute, but that's not really the biggest of your concerns. You've already pushed enough damage. You've got the Rag on the back end. You've got card advantage coming in Azure Drake. It's not a clunky hand for Xieshuai, no matter what.
Yeah, and that's why I tend to favor the Dragon Warrior a lot in this matchup, especially if we were seeing, like, if StanCifka's hand was like Doomcaller instead of Revenge here, you know, because that's one of the sort of tech changes he's made in the deck. Just more greedy cards is in the standard Cthulhu Warrior, which mid-range threats can be kind of a pain in the butt to deal with, especially in the earlier stages when you got so many big greedy cards. But
on the flip side, though, one of the good things for StanCifka here is that he might be able to keep himself above 15, which in the case of something like Draconic Crusher, that's the cutoff you want to hit. The fact that you gain the armor to put you at 23 means that the 3 damage doesn't go to your health directly, which matters quite a bit in this specific
And that's why we see Xieshuai, instead of going for the Azure Drake here, is going for the Core Crown Elite, trying to push his way to that 15 health limit as fast as he possibly can. Make sure his Dragonoid Crushers can become live at some stage before StanCifka starts armoring up out of range.
Yeah, and it's also doing two things at once, right? It's a two-pronged aggression where you are able to curve your Drake on 7 just before the Ragnaros, and you're still able to play your 2 Fairy Dragons this turn, and the Draconic Crusher comes out.
You can't even really play it into the Sylvanas, though. It's super awkward, right?
That's kind of why you want to push the damage as early as possible, right? Usually Draconic Crusher is the game closer, more so than something you play for quote-unquote tempo.
Yeah,
it's kind of rare.
It's just like they have to use their Shield Slams and Executes on your early minions, and then they just can't deal with a 9/9. That's how the deck works. That's the game plan.
And just like this, the Revenge is active for a full clear.
Yeah, that's not a bad little tech card here.
Pretty good for him. I mean, I didn't anticipate Revenge would matter that much, but turns out you do get to these awkward health totals against Dragon Warrior as Cthulhu, so if you anticipate any of that, that can be kind of impactful. 9 health, there's no burst in that deck.
No.
I'm good to go.
Yeah. Well, there is a Rag. So
there is a Grom as well right now.
Yeah.
There might be one Inner Rage in the list. I'm not completely sure if he's running it. It's been played before by other players as a one-of in those lists.
We've seen Rosti do that before, but Rosti is basically the only player that's done that before in tournament format. Oftentimes players...
Yeah, I think Frozen played a few times, but that was it.
Sure, yeah.
Xieshuai does not have the Inner Rage.
Something that's been kind of going in and out since America's Championship. So
yeah, it's one of those fluctuating cards. I think it's kind of like Nazat's first mate too.
Yeah, sure. Those are cards that are really good in the mirror. So a lot of players were playing those, you know, like the last day of Ladder, for example, when it was just like Dragon Warrior mirrors all day, just because it gives you that little bit of tempo swing. It trades card advantage for board advantage, and really all you want is board with this deck. So
yeah, there's been attempts at making like kind of mixing together tempo when they play like more 4-drops. Like they played the Bloodhood Braves with the Twilight Guardians, and then Inner Rage becomes a little bit better for damage output with your mid game, and you can play the Azure Drake with it as removal for 2 damage as well, which also helps a little bit against Cthulhu's Chosen. So the mirror match, as you mentioned, like with other warriors, that tends to be where it matters the most.
StanCifka has to give away a Sylvanas here if he wants to be able to develop Justicar. Otherwise, he would be like using execute and then not really
nothing.
developing
Yeah,
anything.
exactly.
So he chooses to go with this line of play instead. But giving up his Sylvanas is pretty painful. But he does still have the execute to finish off some minions. But there could be a potential lot of damage coming in.
Yeah, that is a really
Ooh.
big damage output. And look at that. This is one of the cards StanCifka is going to be happy to see. On the flip side, though, his Cthulhu is not yet enabled, nor are the minions that synergize with it. So he's still going to have to find another Cthulhu enabler for this deck.
Yeah, he's going to be able to keep the 6-3 alive, though. So the Slam is definitely a welcome sight. Acolyte of Pain, not too bad either. He's able to play it this turn, so fortunate for him there. And it's going to cycle his deck to try and find more answers, but Xieshuai's just started the bomb train. He's still got a 9-9, he still has Grom, and he still has Malkarak.
Oh, well, it's enabled too. Hello.
Grom can go face for 10 here.
Yeah, I mean, with the threat of the tank up, you know, just looming, I think you can't afford waiting too much and try to put the most pressure you can on this warrior before he starts stabilizing too much. You know the Cthulhu is not enabled yet, so the shield bearers are not, they're like a saving grace for that guy.
It is interesting, though. The Grom is very vulnerable to die to a lot of different things at this stage, so definitely would have thought about Malkarocking there.
Okay.
Because you can remove the 6-3, and then when your Grom comes down, it's much less likely to die.
To something like just an execute. I think we've already seen 2 executes, though.
Yeah, we've seen 2 executes.
So Shield Slam is not really active.
Well, Shield Slam with the 6-3 on the board is active. You can deal up to 10, right? So I mean,
3 mana. I guess so. I guess it's okay, because at this point...
like, even at its current state, Grom was played into a board with 7 power on it, and the Grom was at 8 health. So even there's 2 ghouls, there's a Cthulhu's, or Disciple of Cthulhu, so... Yeah, left himself
I guess
open.
so. I mean, it's interesting because now, if it hadn't been for Disciple of Cthulhu, StanCifka was at 5 health.
Yeah,
at the end of that sequence. So he would have to armor up on the back of...
he would have just died.
Yeah, he would have basically just, most of the time, died at least. So.
Yeah. But
there we go, the Draconic Crusher. I can't believe this card's seeing that much play these days. Like, it's so amazing to see a card like that one come back after... It's been out forever, and people tried it back when it was current. When the expansion came out, and then somehow it just never made the cut.
Yeah,
just never did. I wonder what makes it that potent right now. Like, is it just the fact that BGH is out?
Yeah, BGH being out is definitely a factor, and the amount of burst in decks is also a factor. There's not a lot of decks that have too much burst in it. Usually, you know, the Cthulhu being at like 14 or whatever is the maximum amount of burst decks have, and that's not really even 14 burst if they have minions in the field.
Sure, and the 9/9 tanks a lot of that.
Yeah,
anyway.
The 9/9 takes a lot of that anyway. But like when you play a 9/9 in the past, you got Druid comboed and died.
Yeah.
So now
feels bad, man. Like even if it's at 15, you're probably at 14 and you're dead.
Yeah.
So it was useless.
Then the 9/9 got a lot better when that stopped being in the meta, and the game honestly has slowed down a lot. Like the game is still all tempo based and still very fast.
Sure.
But compared to the previous meta, it's a lot slower, and it gives a lot more room for Dragonoid Crusher and other big clumps of stats cards to actually be played.
Is it time to play Anima Golem?
That's not even in the format, I don't think.
Oh, it got GVG'd?
It got GVG'd,
no,
yeah.
man. It never got time to shine.
No,
oh, so I guess that makes a lot of sense,
we
right?
see cards like Onyxia
come back.
Yeah, and Dragonoid Crusher shining. Like Onyxia is the definition of a clump of stats, right?
Absolutely.
Like, yeah, so that card has been actually performing quite well in a lot of Druid builds currently. So
Druids, even
and Dragon Warrior, people are playing Onyxia in it sometimes.
We've seen some Dragon Warrior Onyxia action. It's not really there for synergy purposes as much as it is for the flexibility of the 1/1s trading themselves away into something, and then you can enable executes. You always have the...
I think it's more for just killing people.
Yeah, it's a big dude. It's a lot of damage, and it's like a little bit of flexibility on removal late game, so... Instead of having 1/9/9 or 1/12/12.
It's really good at removing the face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that approach.
All right, so StanCifka seems to be stabilizing. Xieshuai is just running out of stuff now.
That's kind of what happens, yeah.
Yeah, he was so close, 5 life away from killing him, and
suddenly,
Ancient
Shield Bearer.
Yeah, it'll get you.
Honestly, though, if it hadn't been for that Disciple of Cthulhu off the top,
yeah, he was
for StanCifka, and I think that's one of the big things about StanCifka's list, by the way, is the fact that he's not running 2 Beckoners. He's only running the 1, and he's not running Brand, so he never gets those double enables in the mid game to transition into a turn 7 where it's more likely he picks up a 10-10 Cthulhu. So he really relies on getting 2 of those by the time he gets there.
Well, yeah, he also has 2 Acolyte of Pains. So a lot of players, you know, they cut the card draw for more
enablers.
So that's one way to be very consistent on enabling. But if you have a card draw as well, that's like having a percentage of an enabler.
Yeah.
So you can calculate in your deck, you know, I have this much card draw by this turn, which gives me this much more percent to have an enabler. So I only need this many enablers instead of that many.
And it's only bad if you need the enabler before a specific turn, where your card draw takes up some of that mana during the turn where you're building up to it. But in this case, he got it exactly on time and ends up stabilizing on the back of it. I mean, 25 health, he's liable to just get a ton more. The Cthulhu is a 10-10, so
there's
right
potential
now
for
there's a
lethal.
potential for lethal, and it's not even that unlikely. I wouldn't hate the Cthulhu necessarily. Would you ever just kill the 6/5 and then Cthulhu? Is that ever a thing? Like, because you do push 7 guaranteed to face, and then you have a big minion plus the War Axe, and you get stopped by Twilight Guardian.
Seems reasonable for sure, yeah.
That's about it.
You're not, like...
What do you miss out on, really?
Yeah, I don't mind it. I also don't mind buffing the Cthulhu up a little bigger like this.
Why not?
You know, War Xing the face this turn, or even just armoring.
I mean, War
You
Axe,
can buff-
armor up.
yeah,
You do everything. Like
you armor this turn because next turn you can play the Beckoner of Evil and Cthulhu in the same turn.
Right, exactly. So you it still costs you 10 mana, but you get the 12/12, and the opponent's so low on health that even if he builds up a board and clears yours, the odds are good that you just win on the back of it. No armor gain as well since you see Finley, so no more health gain for that warrior.
Yeah, and that Hunter Hero power is just not cutting it.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, maybe it would have been good earlier, but in this
sure.
case, really, really useless. Well, that is going to be it for StanCifka taking it. I mean, it's one of those matchups where I feel like everything hinges on how quickly the Alexstras's champions wear you down and how reliably you can get the Twilight Guardians out on 4. Because if they're on curve, they're amazing. A tiny bit off, and suddenly
they're a Fen Creeper.
Yeah. It's just that's exactly how they feel, because you're floating so much mana in that deck. In many cases, sometimes they're not even that. Dude, they're a 2/6, not even taunting up.
Oh, and you never play it as a 2/6.
Feels bad.
Feels real bad.
Yeah. And now the Fairy Dragon, by the way, also being cut by a lot of people. The second copy of it is being cut by a lot of players. I'm not sure I necessarily like that cut too much, but it is a card that sometimes sits in your hands useless.
Well, I don't know what StanCifka is thinking about.
Do I show my Cthulhu? Does he know I have Cthulhu in my deck? It's a secret tech.
Secret tech. I feel like it's got to be near 100% that he is lethal here.
Okay.
And Xieshuai decides to concede the game as StanCifka is sitting there thinking about whether or not he wants to kill his opponent with Cthulhu.
Or not. I mean, I guess one of the things you could do is see whether or not Xieshuai is likely to reveal more information about his deck if you don't kill him.
Sure, yeah, you could just wait out the game and see all of the cards of the Dragon Warrior deck. Try and figure out if there is a Deathwing or if there's an Onyxia or what is that top-end card that he has. So I guess Cifka was just evaluating, can I beat Deathwing? Can I beat Onyxia if I just try and stall out the game forever?
Yeah, try to figure out which threats you'll have to answer down the line. Now, one of the things with Dragon Warrior is, you know, it kind of, I want to say it sprung out of Tempo Warrior. Like, initially, the initial list started being made as kind of a parallel to Tempo Warrior, and it developed into their own archetype where it's a little bit faster than Tempo. And you see a lot of people reverting to some of the top end that's just very greedy, where they play 4 big threats instead of playing just the 3 that you see in Dragon Warrior. So you'll find Ragnaros with Malkorok, with Grom in the same deck, and you'll even see sometimes people running the Deathwing on top or the Onyxia. So it's like 4 really huge threats.
Crusher. You can't forget about the 9/9.
It's like at some point you just get a crazy amount of really large threats starting on turn 6, and it's not even for the tempo at that point. It's just for the massive beatdown late game.
It feels like Secret Paladin.
Yeah,
you know?
when they drop that 6 drop that just, you're on 15 very often.
You're in 15, they have the board, and they drop a 9/9.
Yeah.
And then they're like, what do you do?
And then Malkorok, and then
Malkorok,
Rag, and then it's just like a
and then Grom plus activate it, and then Deathwing you.
Which is, it really feels like Secret Paladin when they start curving that way. But at least they have a setup. They have to, you know,
and
work
they have
towards.
to get you to 15.
Right.
Yeah.
They have to work for it. They just don't get to cheat, you know, 5 card draws.
They have to punch you in the face.
Yeah.
What
just
a
another
setup.
Hearthstone game. But a warrior hitting you in the face is sacrificing a lot usually.
Sure.
More than, say, a shaman would.
Yeah, coin 3/3 charge face.
Yeah. They're sacrificing a lot. That coin, man.
So much, the coin.
That coin is brutal.
Yeah,
Speaking of coins, StanCifka's got it with Edwin.
Yeah, that's pretty good, especially against Hunter. But we do see Xieshuai playing double Deadly Shot, and StanCifka picks up double Gadgets and Auctioneer. That's never good to have.
Yeah, it can improve a lot, but usually you don't want to have such a slow starting hand. So even though the Gadget Sands might come in handy, it's not going to be for a while, and there's a good chance your health total is so low that it becomes meaningless.
Well, you can make a 6/6 Edwin on turn 3. He's got the ability to go Deadly Coin Edwin Van Cleef.
Pick up a prep, and suddenly
it's the game. So I expect we see him, dagger, and I still think you hit the 2/1, honestly. I think you hit the 2/1, and then you're going to Deadly on a 1/1 dagger.
and then go
Van
for
Cleef.
the Edwin Van Cleef.
Yeah, and kill the
standalone.
3/2 with the second charge of the dagger.
Sure.
You could also hold on to the dagger and try and go like Deadly Abyss, expecting an animal companion to come out. But I think
I actually don't mind waiting for the animal companion. It really depends on what you anticipate your opponent's having, but at this point it's like blind. No matter which 3-drop they play.
It's just awkward to wait because he doesn't have Fan of Knives, he doesn't have Shiv in his hand. So this Fiery Bat is going to be accumulating up to 6 damage, which...
It already dealt 5 at this point, right?
Yeah, so...
It's enough.
It would be dealing so much more damage at the end if he were to be a bit more greedy with it. So I like killing it.
Yeah, so there's no 4-drop there for Xieshuai, but the fact that he's got the trap lets him weave in the extra hero power there for even more damage. And now this is kind of the big tech card of StanCifka. Instead of playing 1 StarSeries, playing 2 with a Shadow Step for versatility purposes. Works with the Leroy, works with everything really in that deck. But it's trying to beat aggro a little bit more, which I think this is a matchup he likes to see probably a tiny bit more than...
Yeah, Hunter is definitely a great matchup for Rogue most of the time. We see Xieshuai, though, doing what Hunter does best against Rogue, which is going all face.
Yeah.
He's been playing minions going face, even bowed the face, and I expect we continue to see him go face for the most part. He's probably going to Freezing Trap hero power here and hold the bow, though, but, this is how Hunter squeezes in its wins against Rogue, is when they're able to get these aggressive hands where Rogue doesn't have those backstabs, they don't have great ways to interact with the early minions, and they're able to sneak out a victory by just punching face a lot.
Yeah. One of the things, though, is that the Earthring Farseer will demand some kind of answer because you don't... It's nice to get the charge back on the bow because it mitigates the damage they're mitigating by self-healing. But maybe it's just better not to let the 6/6 ever get the attack off.
Yeah, for sure. I like the play of just bowing it down, and it sets up really nicely for the high main coming out in the following turn. If you let the 6/6 live, then your high main starts getting challenged, and that gets awkward. So,
all right, Cifka does have to make a decision here. I'm imagining you want to pop the Wolf and Fan. Sounds pretty standard.
Well, how do you pop it then?
You'd probably have to waste your damage on it.
Even then.
Yeah, I mean, you have to try. It's just one of those things where there's no way for StanCifka to get it done cleanly.
Yeah, there's a Freezing Trap up, so he can't trade the Edwin into it. If he goes with the Shadow Strike, he can't Fan, but he can Shadow Strike Dagger down a 1/1.
Yeah.
It's not a terrible play. It's about as defensive as he can get here aside from sapping it. Sapping it is the most defensive line he can take. Eviscerate can't quite pop it for the Fan because can't combo it.
if the Hunter hadn't attacked into the Earthring Farseer, then you could Shadow Strike face and then Evis the 1/1s. I mean the Wolf, that is, but if you sap now, you've only got 1 sap in this deck from Cifka.
Yeah, 1 sap in the deck, and he's using it here on this, so the high main is going to be unanswered. He's taking the most defensive line because he's at 16 health. He's already used his Farseer. He feels like he needs all the time in the world to win this game, and
he's not going to get it.
He's not going to get it.
Well, I like this play from Xieshuai. He tries to just sneak as many hero powers in as possible. The drawback of that play is that it's also letting the Rogue be proactive. It's a really big drawback. You're banking on them not having anything to punish you for giving them the board. And without developing the bow, Freezing Trap's charge never comes in.
Well, I think StanCifka has to just play Gadgets and Auctioneer and pass.
I mean, he can always get the Fan of Knives value, but...
Sure. He's not developing anything, though, and not putting any questions out there. I feel like, I don't know, Gadgets, and if they kill Command it, you're feeling pretty good about your life. Just because that's not going in
exactly.
face.
You're feeling pretty good about your health total, for sure.
Yeah, you're going to buy a lot of time that way, but... With the second Gadget in hand, I wouldn't have minded it. But he goes for the clearing play, cycles the Fan, tries to find some minions.
You win, like, if you're Xieshuai here, if you bow hero power, the guy's down to 9, and then kill Command is basically lethal as soon as you pick up another beast. Or you just use it with Kodo, 2 turns. Yeah. So you've got like a 2-turn clock, just because he's been able to squeeze in hero powers.
Yeah, I like the play a lot. I think Bow Hero Power is pretty solid. I think High Main's pretty solid as well, especially if you're seeing Shadow Strike and Sap being used.
You don't know that there's only one sap, though.
Mm-hmm.
So, it doesn't necessarily tell you that you can commit to that play. It's not a bad play either way. Certainly not, but...
Sure. I feel like he only loses to second Farseer, and second Farseer is extremely uncommon in rogue decks.
Yeah.
And so I would definitely advise the Bow Hero Power play.
I mean, worst case scenario, you still play High Main Hero Power on 8. Call the Wild off the top is also pretty good. Yeah. There's a lot of lines of play where you get the extra hero powers. So this seems a little bit inconsistent with what the lines of play he's been taking throughout the game.
Yeah, I feel like if you're going to play High Main, he should have played it last turn.
Agreed. I think it's just a little bit straying away from the initial game plan.
I think the reason why he played it is after he saw the Shadow Strike and the Fan come out, he was like, all right, the High Main is going to stick now.
Yeah.
Shadow Strike and Fan are some of the best tools for actually killing High Main, because you got Shadow Strike to pop it, and then Spell Power Fan can kill the 2/2s. So if you're going to kill a High Main the hard way, Shadow Strike, Fan are two of the best cards to do it, and those are both gone now.
And you have to basically be on 8 to get the, let's say, a Jury Drake instead of Thalnos with the Phantom Knives.
Sure.
So otherwise you need the prep,
And
which
that's
means
lethal.
Yep, another double kill command lethal for the day.
Well, he's going to hide the second kill command, just use the cards he had in hand.
No tilt. Not that StanCifka tilts anyway.
Sure. And Xieshuai's finally on the board. He gets the Hunter a win.
Yeah.
Which is good news for him, because his remaining decks are not Hunter, and there are the generally speaking stronger classes, so...
The Rogue is going to have
a hard time.
A hard time now,
yeah.
I think. Now that the Hunter's out of the way.
There's nothing good here for the Rogue, really, except, the Reno Lock. The Reno Lock, it's got potentially...
There's no burst in that list, right? Actually, wait, it is the Leroy version.
It's the Leroy version.
It's
so
actually able to contest.
It's the chance that has, it's the deck that has a better chance against the Rogue in general, but still you have to give the edge to the Rogue for sure.
It's kind of tricky. Navigating that matchup with one sap is even harder. It's a lot harder because you're trying to play Farseers for tempo against a deck that has all the AoE in the world, more healing than you. They have sometimes spot removal they've got no targets for. You're only playing one teacher.
Yeah, the text for StanCifka could come back to bite him in that matchup. It could make it a little bit more difficult than traditionally is. So,
I mean, I don't necessarily think Rogue is in a bad spot overall. I just think the text that you make to it will dictate what it's going to be able to beat, and this is not something he's teched against Reno Lock at all.
Yeah, definitely not teched against Reno Lock. He should have a better chance against Dragon Warrior because of his text for sure, though. And
I like the 3/3s,
Yeah, Cold Blood's really good against Reno Lock, but only running one.
I mean, Conceal's not even that bad, depending on how
Conceal's insane.
Exactly. If you're about the thing is he's been cutting down on those to include Shadow Step
and minions.
It's
the key to victory against Reno Lock though is getting one of those early Cold Bloods and one of your early 3/3s and just jamming it face and maybe concealing it, forcing your opponent not to be able to develop because they have to use all of their mana Hellfiring or something to clean up your minions, which then gives you more time.
And you play Drake on curve, and then suddenly they have the Shadow Bolt, and then they never get to Reno.
Yeah, they just never get to develop their Mountain Giants or Twilight Drakes, because if they play them into your minions and you sap them, they lose. So, yeah.
Well, it will be the Reno Lock from Cifka against Xieshuai's Dragon Warrior. So this is a matchup usually, I think, when you're playing a standard Tempo Warrior, that Reno Lock has a lot of ease beating. They just beat Tempo Warrior a lot more readily. The Dragon Warrior is also kind of the same boat because they run out of steam a lot faster, and they don't have the reach necessarily that you'd be needing to win this.
And StanCifka picks up the most important card in the entire matchup, Reno Jackson.
Yep.
Which is so crucial because Dragon Warrior, as you said, runs out of steam pretty quick, but in the process of running out of steam, they deal a lot of damage.
Right. You have to starve them. Eventually, you'll be at a somewhat comfortable health total, but until you've actually done that, you're at risk of dying very quickly.
For sure. For sure. So StanCifka has to try and prepare here to deal with a 3-drop as appropriately as he can.
So, I mean, there's the option of just Shadow Bolt, but that really lets you get punished by something like, Frothing Berserker in Tempo would be something like Fierce Monkey and whatnot.
Yeah, the other option was play Harvest Golem and then hope your opponent goes all face, and then you can trade the Harvest Golem into the Frothing Berserker and then Hellfire, which would have been really cute. But if your opponent double trades into the Harvest Golem, you're just kind of screwed.
Yeah, because the Frothing gets him the exact same value, and you end up being even further behind. So, I mean, you have the Shadow Bolt on the back end, so you Hellfire a turn later. Feels bad because you're still giving them value.
Yeah, I like StanCifka's play, though, of just you know, removing it immediately and.
Play like handlock. Usually works out.
Well, it's a bit awkward for him now, though.
But, I mean, you've got the M-Gang boss.
Ugh.
M-Gang boss with Sun Fury could stall a little bit longer. But... So, assuming there's no life tap.
I don't think you're life tapping.
No, I don't think you can afford to. If you Demon Wrath, then you're cleaning up a little bit, but that Frothing is gonna be punishing. You can't put yourself into execute range with that Drake. But you don't have much of a choice. I actually think maybe M-Gang, or it might be the only play you've got.
Yeah, you may have to Imp Gang. You could potentially tap Imp Gang. Playing the Sun Fury is kind of sketchy because you're taunting up two kind of small minions, a 2/4 and a 4/4.
Ravaging Ghoul is so scary.
Yeah.
And that Frothing just, if the guy's got the right hand, you're dead. Like
yeah.
In the near perfect hand, you're dead.
StanCifka getting a little bit punished for Shadow Bolting the 3/3 here. So he is going to go with this play. It seems like the best play that he can make on the turn. It's just not incredibly powerful.
Well, the Slam's definitely a card that Xieshuai is happy to see. I mean, talking about running out of steam, you've got a Azure Drake and the Slam here that can help him salvage some of that. So it's not half bad. The question is, how do you manage to go through all this and buff your Frothing to connect to face in the most effective way without being too vulnerable to something like Shadow Flame? So Slam the Drake, and you can push the little 1/3. Oh, another Slam. Wonder if that changes anything. Or do you just go for the Korokron into the M-Gang area?
Looks like he's just going with the Korokron.
Yeah.
And then I guess using the Frothing Berserker to take down the Drake.
Yeah, that's pretty much where you have to trade him away at this point. You can't really connect.
Mm-hmm.
But that's good for Sifka. He's going to be happy to see this.
Yeah. Not too bad for him. His board clears still aren't very clean. Hellfire doesn't quite finish off the 3/6.
I mean, you don't really mind Demon Wrath, right? Like, the fact that you've got the Korokron dying to it and the Murloc, it's one of the best values you'll get out of it, I think, for the time being. You do have to answer the Korokron.
Yeah, you have Reno Jackson, though, so you could think about maybe just taking this opportunity to develop Karen and then eat a bunch of damage and then play Reno the following turn.
And just try to come back and claw your tempo
Yeah.
from Karen and the Reno being on the board at the same time.
Something to think about. I'm not
sure. I mean,
sure
I don't dislike it. The only issue I think is you might be putting your board into jeopardy when you end up AoEing later on. So you're putting Karen, you're putting Reno down, but ultimately you still end up having to AoE in many cases because there's too many bodies to deal with.
Okay.
So you weaken your Reno and your Karen, and you give the initiative back on turn 8-9, where suddenly Rag comes down. And you don't have Siphon Soul yet. But it's kind of, you know,
Yeah,
it's a worry about a very late game play. But it's the one worry I would have by playing Karen here.
So Demon Wrath.
Oh, wow, that's a very quick
Interesting.
Reno Jackson.
Yeah, Reno Jackson only for 13, but he feels like he has to do it because he has to react to the board so heavily. He's just felt like all of his other plays, I guess, don't accomplish that much on the board, so he's realizing every turn from now on I'm going to be trying to deal with the board as much as possible.
Wasn't just Demon Wrath, Harvest Golem okay? I mean, I thought that was fine, right? On 6, you just clean up the Korokron, you clean up the 1/2, and you have a 2/1 and a 2/3 to deal with the 3/4.
Well, maybe he's afraid about the amount of incoming damage
So he wants to go double AoE on 7, then that's the only explanation.
Yeah, double AoE here. He's just afraid of the amount of incoming damage and then Ragnaros coming down and killing him, I guess.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the same thing I was like hinting at, which is you end up AoEing anyway twice on the same turn when you play Reno and Karen. So if you're going to do that AoE play, you might as well set up an empty board on your side. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah,
all things
this was
considered. It's kind of like a different angle, or like it's one turn quicker than we anticipated.
Yeah, it's just, this is like one of his only lines of play that made it so he had enough time to get in the Reno before Rag came down and killed him potentially, you know?
Yeah.
So he was just really afraid of Rag coming out on 8, just kind of thinking 3 turns ahead. Do I have enough time to Reno in the future? And the answer apparently was no.
So, Doomsayer is here, and you can technically just protect it, or you can just go, you know, double Death Rattle Taunt. Possess Villager with Harvest Golem and Defender without tapping. Kind of, it's very board-centric. You haven't seen ghouls yet. It's kind of awkward.
It's kind of awkward.
Possess Villager, Defender, Doomsayer. What about Karen Doomsayer? How bad is that, really?
Well,
You get
if your opponent
slammed.
kills your Karen, then and lets the Doomsayer go off, you have the freedom, I guess, to develop onto an empty board, but you don't have very many great minions to develop, and you would lose your Karen for basically free. But I don't know how much you mind losing it, so I mean, I think it's a reasonable line of play.
Yeah, you get punished by essentially maybe like a slam plus Drake hitting your Doomsayer. But even then, it's like you healed for 7 in that spot.
Yeah, not really a big fan of it. It just feels too slow.
I mean, this is getting punished really hard right now. Like, this entire board is going to get absolutely torn apart by Xieshuai's hand.
Yeah, there's not going to be much left at the end of this sequence. So
yeah, it's pretty much a disaster.
yeah, slam, and then he can double ghoul if he wants, or he can any sort of array of options.
Well, StanCifka does have Twisting Nether left in the deck. The issue is you haven't seen any of the big threats yet.
Oh yeah, there's still so many Dragon Warrior threats coming.
Yep, it's not over by far. And Twilight Summoner in the list. Interesting. I remember seeing that. Looks like this Forge. I mean, this is not even something that's going to help you at this point. You've seen the Ghoul. There's another AoE left in the deck.
Sure, there's
in the form of Ghoul, so I think this is where you drop the Doomsayer, though. You don't have much of a choice.
Okay.
Yeah, so Xieshuai has the option here of either killing the Karen or killing the Doomsayer.
Or you just go Ghoul, execute, and drop more minions
Sure.
into this.
Not too bad either. It looks like he is going to go for just removing the Doomsayer there.
Unless you play a 6/6, that's correct. Actually, it's probably a lot better.
On
Not
9/9?
weakening your board and.
Yeah. Turns out developing a 9/9 when your opponent has 1 card, pretty good.
Well,
he can almost kill it.
He can. Oh yeah, I was gonna say he's really close.
Oh,
Oh, never
there we go.
mind. That is the card you were looking for.
Yep. He still loses the Karen though. It only gets up to 9 health.
Yeah, you have to buff it up first, then trade it away.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Oh, he's not gonna go for the clear here.
Okay, so he's not clearing the 9/9, and he's gonna hope
His
he
hope
can
his
stay
opponent
alive.
Doesn't have 2 damage. I feel like if he throws away Karen, he loses the game, right?
One of the things though is that the 2 damage could only be coming from a second Korkron, a Blackwing. Well, never mind. I was gonna Blackwing Corruptor, Grom Hellscream, Fiery War Axe has always been played, like in both of them. So
How does he heal though from that point on?
there's
He's already
no
played
point.
Reno,
There's
right?
no way. There's like Cult Apothecary, but against that deck, if there's more than 3 minions, they're probably gonna hit you for a lot harder than Cult Apothecary will heal you. So the healing was pretty much non-existent from here on out. Besides Siphon Soul,
Yeah,
like a
Siphon Soul.
very
So it's
clutch
like
Siphon.
if he's at 2 life, how does he ever win the game? He can't life tap for additional cards, so I find it very unlikely that he's able to win, even though he's able to hold on to the 4/5 there. I think the 9 life may have been more impactful than the 4/5 on the board.
Yeah, I think maybe getting himself down to 2 health might have been a bit of an overextension. I don't think he was hoping to win it at that stage. I still have to look back on that turn where he could have played Cairn into Reno into AoE.
Yeah.
Right, when he opted to play Reno for
he played
13
Reno
health.
really early, yeah. It's just he maybe played a bit too defensively. He got a little bit cocky with his hand and was like, I
At the
can
beginning,
win. Yeah, I can win this game if I just like Reno here and then kind of ride out the value. And
the Shadow Bolt as well was kind of
the Shadow Bolt was
questionable as well.
Questionable for sure. It's always in Reno lock games though. There's always like 100
Yeah.
different ways you can take the game, right? So it's really hard to say what is correct because we get to see the whole hand.
But we saw his line of thinking though. Like it was obvious he wanted to get Shadow Bolt into Twilight Drake and just start curving off of there.
And then did not prepare quite accurately for the Twilight Guardian, which just absolutely shreked him. So. Yeah.
Interesting game at the very least. So we will see that Reno lock replayed from both sides. There's a Reno lock, and I want to see that mirror match.
Well, the mirror match heavily favors Xieshuai because he's running the burst variation, and StanCifka is not.
Right. We haven't seen any of those bursts come into effect yet. When I saw Xieshuai's lists, we haven't seen them really matter since he hasn't had to play them. But in the mirror match, it's definitely going to be like the big win.
Both decks sit around tapping and doing nothing.
One of them kills you.
Well, one can do 20 damage from hand, and the other cannot.
Yeah.
So it usually is a pretty big factor in that matchup.
Yeah, it comes down to just Leroy being there early enough. I find that like if the game drags on forever, sometimes you can get a Ragnaros that sneaks in a kill from the non-combo player.
Sure.
But even then, Nazat has to do a ton of work as well.
Yeah, it's a very like high skill intensive mirror too. There's so many little like tweaks and things you need to really know about Reno Lock to be able to successfully win the mirror. So it's going to be an interesting one for sure.
Well, looks like we're going to be looking at that right now. The Rogue's not going to be coming out, nor the Druid from Xieshuai. So StanCifka is going to start taking notes because he's going to need them.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the better Reno players in the world. His last game with Reno Lock was maybe a bit questionable, some of his decisions, or I don't know. I'm not a renowned Reno Lock player, so I don't want to jump the gun and say, things were like incorrect or whatever, but I felt like some of his lines were kind of shady. But even though his deck list is clearly unfavored against Xieshuai's deck list, I feel like if there's a player that can figure out how to win that Reno Lock mirror, it's StanCifka.
Yeah, he and Life Coach play a lot of that non-combo Reno Lock deck.
Yeah.
I think that playstyle is not one that you play if you're not familiar with the deck inside and out, because usually piloting the combo list to victory is a lot easier than getting those really weird, one-for-one, one-to-one card playstyles of N'Zoth. I think that one's a lot grindier.
Yeah, definitely. It's a lot more about resource management and using your removal as appropriately as possible, saving it for the right scenarios than it is so with the other version, because the other one's a lot more forgiving. If you mess up with your removal somewhere, sometimes
you're okay. You can still get a win anyway.
Yeah, sometimes you can just cheese a win out by hitting them for 20.
Yeah, it's kind of the goal of the deck too. Like, it's giving them that out on the back end. It's kind of like playing the old hand lock.
Whereas, if you play with the no-win condition Reno Lock, all of your removal needs to line up with all of their threats.
One for one, and you have to pilot them perfectly.
Otherwise, at the end of the day, they have one more threat than you have removal for, and you lose.
Yeah.
So
it's like the Jiraxis problem. Sometimes in the late game, you'll find that not every single list runs Jiraxis, but those that do sometimes is like it's the last threat you just don't have an answer for.
Yeah. For sure.
Does any of these players run Jiraxis? I know that Xieshuai is not running it. I would be surprised if StanCifka did, as I've not really seen many N'Zoth lists that find room for it.
Yeah, he's not running the Jiraxis. So Jiraxis goes in and out of favor a lot. We saw Frozen finish #1 legend with Reno Lock featuring Jiraxis on the NA server last season. So it's a card that's still semi-relevant. Just I haven't seen it around too much lately besides that one instant.
All right, StanCifka facing down the 8-8. The old handlock conundrum. How much can this hit me for before I freak out?
Yeah, usually it's a lot. Usually you just kind of chill with it and then siphon it on 6. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the Doomsayer come out here, though, to try and absorb, 8 health.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like the player is going to be willing to let you pop the Doomsayer when your 1-1 is going to be coming back as a 5-5 and his Giant is simply going to vanish away. So one of the options is definitely to just Doomsay and force the opponent to trade into it to heal yourself for 8, effectively.
Yeah, 2 mana heal 8's pretty good.
Yep.
The question is, does he want to pop his 1-1 into the Giant or not, or does he want to stick around waiting for the Siphon Soul? He has the Shadow Bolt, he has the Demon Wrath to try and clean it up. So
I don't mind popping. Like, what this does is it's kind of two-pronged problem. So Xieshuai has the option of simply letting the Doomsayer go off, but you give your opponent initiative, which is horrible. But on the flip side, the 5-5 suddenly gives your opponent a lot more flexibility for removal. So, oh man, this Spellbreaker Coil.
Seems good. Spellbreaker Coil face.
Yeah, you have the Siphon Soul still lining up against the Giant or any big threat that comes out from here on out. So
yeah, you have the Giant just outstatted on board for the time being. So
yeah, you have to imagine that whatever the Giant trades into at this point it'll get cleaned up by a spell. As leftover.
For sure.
So StanCifka with the Bane of Doom. Both players have Bane of Doom in their deck, so they'll both find a good spot for it, like no doubt. If Xieshuai kills the 5-5, Bane of Doom suddenly gets enabled by StanCifka.
Yeah, the trick for Xieshuai here is trying to figure out a way that can he clear the board without his Giant taking any damage.
Yeah, that's the dream. I think ignoring the board to a certain extent might be the way to do it.
Yeah, you could push the 8 face here if you wanted to, expecting the 5 health minion to trade in, but leaves his Imp Gang boss a little bit vulnerable to getting farmed, so he wants to try and protect that. So he does take the trade here.
And the Bane of Doom is going to find value. There was the possibility of simply playing wow, hello. That's a threat.
That is a high roll for
and
sure.
That's definitely one of the best answers with the Bane of Doom. You smash your 2-4 into it, Coil and Bane.
Yeah, and then you get your own 7-5.
Yeah. I mean, the card draw is less valuable than the extra demon, given that you've already got so many good options in your hand. Unless No, there's really no. Even with a combo list, you wouldn't want to dig that badly. They use surrender or free demon.
Yeah, I don't think so. Like, digging's really important, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm gonna stop you right there.
the tempo of a demon, especially when it could be, you know, Jiraxis or something cool.
It could be anything, really. I mean, Dreadsteed would be disgusting. Yeah, you know what?
Even another Imp Gang boss.
You could just substitute the dead one for a new one.
It's not too bad.
Yeah, planned obsolescence. You just throw stuff away. So I guess StanCifka, Demon Rat suddenly feeling pretty useless.
Yeah, it's looking like a pretty good Emperor turn, though. Just
Yeah.
there's nothing else really to do. It's not directly contested on board, which is pretty rare for this stage of the game. So your opponent has to play a card from hand to be able to deal with it. So seems quite powerful. Walks a little bit into Ragnaros, but not that big of a deal. Your opponent has to risk the Emperor proccing again.
And if it, I was gonna say if the Ragnaros goes face, you're probably ecstatic about it.
Well, not anymore. There's a Leroy, so I kind of like Emperor. I mean, just playing Ragnaros in. If it goes face, it's not the biggest deal in the world because you got Leroy follow up, and your opponent doesn't benefit from Emperor ticks nearly as much as you do because
Yeah, they're not comboing. So
Yeah.
at this point, it's really just the flexibility they've got on the removal, the combination of removal pieces.
yeah. And honestly, if it's already procced once, then proccing twice isn't as much of a big of a deal. The first proc.
Oh
is the
my
most
God. Okay.
influential.
Now that.
Yeah, he's got 12 damage in his hand now. He would have been able to push, you know, like an extra 3, and then if the 8 goes face,
It's 11.
that's
total.
11, and then he can follow that up with 12. So I guess it's not quite enough to be, you know, closing the game out. But yeah, it's definitely something to consider. But he chooses to go with the safe route. You can't fault him for that. I think it's a fine line of play as well. Just taking the safer route, making sure the Emperor is dead because it can potentially get out of control if it keeps proccing over and over.
I think the important part to remember is that he has inevitability at some point.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of waiting for
Sure.
the right moment. And there's many times you'll try to set it up a bit too early and you get punished for it.
Yep, that's a good point as well, yeah. Just knowing the deck lists, yeah. Knowing that Xieshuai has inevitability, being super patient. I like that point.
All right. Well, there is the already the Faceless and the Leroy, but you need Power of Whelming to make anything of this, alongside, you know, an Emperor Tick.
Yeah.
Really pretty relevant. I mean, StanCifka's ready to enable the Nazoth already. The issue is you want to be baiting out a Twisting Nether before that.
Yeah,
Unless you're... And maybe even getting a Sylvanas again, if you can just find it before Nazoth turn. So the StanCifka keeping the Possessed Villager for a reason.
For enabling maybe like Power Overwhelming Shadow Flame or
Yeah.
something like that. So
That's probably the reasoning behind the
yeah, it's
the
just a
keep.
1-1 on the board doesn't really accomplish anything. Xieshuai would be able to double trade into it and just remove it immediately. So
Well, speaking of that, I think this is actually not too bad a board to do so.
yeah,
Um,
Xieshuai sets up the trade there for the Karen and also plays around Mind Control Tech a little bit.
Well,
It's not
this is-
terrible Nazoth.
I was gonna say this Nazoth is not looking half as bad as it could be later. The issue is, do you want to get maybe the Harvest Golem on board with the Possessed Villager before you even pull that off?
The benefit of like just trading the Karen and playing Nazoth here is you kind of force a Shadow Flame or a Twisting Nether. If there is no Shadow Flame and Twisting Nether has to kind of come out, you can maybe start fighting for the board and like pulling ahead maybe even on board.
Yeah.
So, because your opponent has a bunch of minions they'd have to kill in their own AoE basically.
I mean, one of the things that buffing the
Yeah, this
the
is pretty
Cairn
solid.
does is it gives you guaranteed double trays, and you can Shadow Bolt the brand on the back of it. And 2 Death Rattles are present on the board. You still
Yeah.
keep your Shadow Flame for the Possessed Villager later on if need be. And your Nazoth is still getting a little bit stronger every single time one of these Death Rattle guys blows up.
Yeah, I
So-
definitely like this play a lot. I think this is probably the best play this turn, just getting those clean trades.
Yeah.
Getting taunts up as well.
So Xieshuai does have the Cult Apothecary for 6 health. Usually in these matchups, that's the most you're going to get, unless you find one of the sickest spots. With Imp Gang boss spawning a ton of imps, it's pretty unlikely you find more than this. So that's a really good Cult Apothecary if you want to pick it up. The issue is you still need to deal with Cairn. You know there's really a limited amount of burst. Dark Peddler could come in and add more to that, but it's not the biggest worry on your mind. So how to play this?
He's got the Doomsayer to go with the Twisting now. So later on in the game, if he's able to get a clean Twisting Nether off, you get that sweet Twisting Nether Doomsayer play.
I actually like that a lot.
And yeah, then it allows you to set up the combo. So what he needs to do is really get the Siphon Soul out of the way with Ragnaros at some point in this game. and then he'll find a board where he can Twisting Nether, clear the whole board, play Doomsayer,
And then
and
just
then
put up like
combo.
a stagger the lethal. I mean the board clear twice over 2 turns.
Oh, he's
Gonna go
use
for the Doomsayer
here
now.
just for additional healing. He
All
doesn't
right.
know, I guess, that StanCifka doesn't have the combo.
Then that must be it, because this
Yeah.
is a very defensive play coming from him.
This is the only line of play he has that beats the combo basically, and so he's afraid of StanCifka comboing him.
Yeah, he's like, he had the Emperor tick and he played it, so maybe he's holding on to this combo, and I'm the only one missing the Emperor. I've got the other pieces, but
Yeah.
nothing else. Well, there might be a bit of a misread on the deck list, but it's not as though we've seen StanCifka play this deck. So
Yeah, he hasn't been
can't
playing
blame
it
him.
too much. Sure.
Cannot blame him for
And
this.
when you see Emperor, you expect the combo.
Yeah, you're dead. Usually you expect that to come out alongside some kind of win condition.
Yeah. And StanCifka is just playing the Emperor just because it's a good card.
Yeah, I mean it works so well in a deck that just taps all the time.
Yeah.
Can't really complain about it.
And also, it's pretty good at bluffing the combo in these tournaments, I guess. So
Yeah.
Power
And,
Overwhelming is going to come out though, so Xieshuai is going to know that there is no opportunity for combo any longer.
unless there's 2 of them in the deck, and then suddenly you still have to Twisting Nether, and if you Twisting Nether, Nazoth comes out, and down you go.
I don't think he's going to Twisting that. I think he's going to play his own Emperor. He's
Sure.
seen the Power Overwhelming and he's like, all right, you're not playing combo.
And the Reno might have felt a bit, with retrospect, in hindsight, the Reno might have felt a little bit awkward, but still an okay play. I mean, as long as there's a taunt for StanCifka, this Leroy is not going anywhere.
That's true as well, yeah.
It's a bit awkward for him. Xieshuai does not have a good way to clear this up, and the Doomsayer being gone means there's no staggering of twisting
Yeah.
Doomsayer, so suddenly the Harvest Golem is the biggest hurdle he's going to have to beat. Wow.
Rag's pretty good here. You're not really anything you do doesn't overextend into twisting
Mhm.
because you have the Nazoth to just follow up after twisting.
Exactly. I mean,
So-
you'd love to get Sylvanas back, but it's no pressure.
Yeah. The thing is, though, maintaining your life total if there is a twisting, because after twisting, you got to be not dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I like the way you think. This is...
yeah, it's because you got to play around the combo now. So you got to play around 20 bursts. So that's why you see StanCifka, he picked up and put down the Cult of Apothecary. Thinking about maybe just healing for that little bit to just make sure if, the 5 damage connects, he's not going to be dead. And we see him go out with even the Siphon Soul here, going for that sort of healing. And just
I don't
playing
mind
against the
that.
board.
Again, going back to the play we're talking about, right now, as long as he baits the Twisting Nether and he's on okay health total, he's eventually just going to be able to whittle down his opponent from max health.
Oh.
What Xieshuai needs to pick up is Power Overwhelming off of this to
Yeah.
start with, and then maybe just find a good time to clean up, because this board is looking awfully close to lethal with the Reno out of the way.
Yeah, it's really close.
I mean, Hellfires, there's possibly Peddler giving more damage.
Yeah, Rag being able to
Ragnaros,
connect face
yeah.
is pretty huge. And the Demon Wrath can really help it make sure that it connects with the face.
Well, Peddler will be trying to find a Power Overwhelming. Xieshuai with a, what's the chance?
About 10%.
Yeah, per card, I think.
Yeah, so not the worst odds in the world, but not the best odds in the world, and I wasn't able to find it.
Picks up a good Cold Apothecary, though. We were talking about 6 being a very good amount. This is actually a little bit better.
Yeah.
Kind of surprised it even occurred in the first place.
Yeah, sometimes you like saving Brand for the Cult Apothecary in this
True.
deck. Be like your second Reno. Oftentimes you can get, 16 or 12 healing off of it if you combo it with Brand, but
No, that's true. I mean, it's not even something I notice even that often, but it does occur more often than not. It's like you treat it as a heal bot in a nutshell when you play it with Brand. I guess you have the option of going for Shadow Flame on the 4/5 and playing your own Cult Apothecary. So you just go heal for 4 back to max, or do you expect Alex Strauza to be there?
I do not expect Alex Strauza to be there. That is a card
Even in the
that's-
combo list.
Even in
okay.
the combo list, it's pretty uncommon to run any 9 drops with the full combo, but it's what people did in the first iteration of the combo,
And then started going back.
and then they started being a little bit less greedy as the meta sped up. As Shaman became more popular. I'm talking back in Nazoth Paladin days.
Yeah, the
people-
early days of the expansion.
Yeah, people would run the Alex Strauza. So we see here StanCifka just healing up to 30, not expecting Alex Strauza, but
He's
also
like, please, Twisting Nether, man.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for that to happen, and it's just not.
yeah.
Back to 30 health as well.
So we see StanCifka. Does he set up lethal with this play? He's got 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15 plus 8.
Yeah, that's
So-
23 damage. He's got the lethal.
Yeah, he's got the lethal if he's able to make sure that Rag connects. He's got 1 damage to spare trying to make sure that Rag connects. So
What if, is there a world in which Xieshuai ever goes for... No, there's no way. I was going to say some kind of... trying to set up an Alex Straza at some point, but there's really no way you can do this. I mean, you have to expect it's Nazoth at this rate.
yeah,
And if you
most
know that,
definitely.
then Twisting Nether just feels horrible without having the Shadow Flame as backup. Hellfire's cleaning up a little bit, but not remotely enough.
Yeah, his Hellfire Kodo cleans up some. I
Hellfire
guess.
Nether cleans up even the Death Rattles, but it's
Wow.
even worse.
And then they play Nazoth and you die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Standard handlock play. Okay, he's going to put himself at 20. Sylvanas does not cause a lot of tension on the board, but,
No.
you know, it's
Siphon comes out though.
board presence.
So now I think StanCifka is going to use this Ragnaros to force the Nether.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at taking him down like to 4 health at the end of that sequence. So it's hard to not go for it. And if he does go for it, then suddenly you win the game on the back of this. Unless you get somehow brought down from 30 to 0. But with Doomsayer out of the way, there's no staggering of removal that's going to punish you.
Xieshuai can pick up Sylvanas Shadow Flame after the Nether.
Sure.
And have another clear after that. Be able to, take the Karen potentially.
Yeah, there's still no power of whelming, so... there's Karen and Nazoth on board at the end of that sequence.
Yeah. Karen, Nazoth, Harvest Golem, and the 1/1.
The 1/1. So there's a lot of possible
you could
whiffs, and you still die on 4 health if you pick up the...
Yeah, if you pick up
Shadow
not
Flame.
Karen, you're dead off the Sylvanas Shadow Flame, right? So,
I mean, Nazoth, it can still come out and bait the Nether. You still get a bunch of Death Rattles, and then
yeah,
Ragnaros...
he sets up lethal here.
Yeah, I mean, Ragnaros just... I mean, you have the 5/5 coming out, you got the 4/5 coming out, you got all the little 1/1, you got the 2/1, and you got a possible Rag on the back of this.
Yeah, there's no play for Xieshuai really that stops this, right? Yeah,
I can't think of one. If there's one, then it probably relies around just ignoring...
What
the
about Hellfire Nether? Hellfire Nether keeps him in it. Because the Emperor discounts on both of them, so StanCifka is
Sure.
probably not thinking about that. That leaves only 4 power on the board, so...
I mean...
No, he's still dead.
He's
the
still
Rag.
dead. Exactly. I was
Yeah.
going to say to the... he's bringing himself down to 9, and then he dies to the 4 and the 5.
Yeah, he dies to the Rag, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, there's literally no outs in his entire deck to
Yeah.
display. So that's pretty well identified by StanCifka, just realizing, hey, my opponent can't clear this.
There is no way I lose this game, no matter what.
Yeah. Even Sylvanas Shadow Flame isn't good enough. There it had to be
Leroy
some-
Shadow Flame would still not do it. The coil's out of the way, so that's already impossible. I mean, Xieshuai just shaking his head. He knows. He just knows. There's no way. And he's going to Hellfire after the fact, which is even worse than
Yeah,
doing it prior, because the 5/5 does live.
Yeah,
through the
now he just
Hellfire, now he
dies
dies to
on
the board.
board with this sequence. Yeah, he's supposed to do it the other way.
Yeah, he's supposed to actually clean up the 1/1 first with the Hellfire and then go for the play. So, Xieshuai does lose the mirror, where we said
Yeah, his
he was
deck.
heavily favored, but
Yeah.
I have to say that it's probably just because he misidentified
Yeah,
the Reno lock he was against.
I agree as well. He played a super early Reno Jackson. He played like around the combo for a really long time that game. Then he saw StanCifka play the power overwhelming and was like, oh, there's no combo.
Yeah, did he play Peddler? No, that wasn't even Peddler.
Yeah.
Just a standard PO.
Oh, yeah.
So unless he's running in 2 copies of it, which you kind of never see in Reno lock.
Yeah, you definitely rarely see it. Sometimes you see it in some like targeting lineups that are
Right.
really targeting other Reno locks or Nazoth
But
Paladins or
it's really
something. But
uncommon.
yeah, it's really uncommon. So yeah, StanCifka able to take it with a super unfavored deck list for the mirror.
I'm kind of
having
happy
no
to see that Nazoth Reno lock, when the deck lists are not given to both players, the whole mind games of trying to figure out what the opponent's deck is matter a lot.
Yeah.
Whereas when you have like the
And-
HCT format with the deck list is given away, I feel like right off the bat both players are navigating with perfect information,
Yeah, it
and suddenly
takes a lot of skill away from the game, honestly, because when you don't know what your opponent's deck list is and you have to try and figure it out as the game is going on, that's definitely a skill in Hearthstone, piecing together what is my opponent's game plan with these cards, why
Right.
is this happening, what are they trying to do, what threats do they run since they run this early game package, they run this many 2-drops, whatever. You know, you can piece together the entire curve of their deck and try and like guess the possible threats that they can be running, and a lot of the more experienced players like StanCifka are really good at doing that.
yeah, I think that's pretty much their advantage over other people. However, like one of the big problems there is Xieshuai was not lacking the skill to do it. It's just that there was no information. And then
It's
as soon
true,
as
yeah.
he saw, I mean, I guess Faceless Summoner might have been a giveaway. He didn't
don't
pick up on it early enough. But
Yeah, and then there's
how
also
big of it is one?
the Possessed Villager could have been kind of a giveaway as well, which
Sure.
we can also attest, StanCifka was holding that back.
for the entire game.
Yeah, he had so many opportunities to play Possessed Villager, and he was like, I'm not going to play Possessed Villager. And we were
He's
like,
going to know that.
well, why is he not playing Possessed Villager? And maybe it's just because, I'm going to bluff that I'm combo Reno Lock.
Yeah,
I mean,
suddenly.
yeah, so there's a lot of factors that come into play when deck lists aren't revealed, and it's things you have to think about while playing the game, where maybe you take a little bit suboptimal plays, conceal some information, force your opponent to play differently, and we see Xieshuai, as soon as he saw the power of whelming, completely change game plans and start playing totally
he
differently.
just figured out, oh man, I used my Reno, I used my Doomsayer. What am I going to do with this Twisting Nether now?
Yeah.
I can't just stagger the double removal over 2 turns and guarantee the combo to go off. So he's going to have to replay his Reno Lock up against a Rogue. So usually, Rogue favors, slightly Rogue favored at the very least, but 1 sap only in StanCifka's list, so it's not as well geared to face off against a Reno Lock. It can still do it.
It can still do it. The way I like to play Rogue in this matchup, and I've played a lot of Rogue against Reno Lock with Super JJ, is I like to just completely ignore everything Reno Lock's doing and just do
your thing,
the Rogue game plan, just like drop Tomb Pillagers even into like Doomsayers if I have Gadget, for example, and just curve out with my minions, ignore their Twilight Drake, not sap it early on, and then get super powerful Gadget turns because Reno Lock doesn't pressure you very quickly, honestly.
I mean, usually you get, if you let them build minions for 3 to 4 turns, I mean, you're dead. But that's the way they end up winning, is it starts like 5, 6, 7, 8, and then you're dead.
Yeah, well,
But so you have like the first few turns to usually set up.
yeah,
You try to do it.
a lot of times though, like Rogue players will be like using their removal on early stages and forgoing developing things like Tomb Pillager so that they can kill Twilight Drakes. And I think it's almost always better to just play the Tomb Pillager into the Twilight Drake and let the Twilight Drake get the favorable trade. And
Sure, and you'll finish it off later on.
yeah,
with
you'll
some kind
finish
of,
it later
yeah,
on while drawing cards with your Gadget most of the time.
Well, Xieshuai threw away the Harrison Jones in the Druid in the starting hand. I mean, he did find 2 Wild Growths.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way to do it. And you're playing Druid, you need Innervate and Wild Growth. Even though Harrison Jones is great in the matchup, it's not Innervate or Wild Growth.
Yeah. He did throw away Raven Idol, though, but because there was no ramp, it's not a card you want to be keeping. I think it's not half bad, though. It's definitely a card I would consider, depending on the rest of the cards. I think it usually depends on the texture of your hand. If your hand contains a decent playable minion on Innervate play, then somehow Raven Idol is already more appealing.
Sure, it's not a bad key. A lot of people say like they always keep it on 1 and go for the spell and hope for the Wild Growth or Innervate.
It's
The general consensus is that your odds of getting Wild Growth or Innervate for turn 2 go up if you keep Raven Idol on turn 1. Because Raven Idol being played on turn 1 is more likely to give you Wild Growth or Innervate than it is you mulliganing it away.
Yeah, and you can still always draw it if you can one of the 2 pieces to even get more ramp on the back of this if you get it off of Raven Idol. Lots of ramp in Xieshuai's hand. StanCifka, however, number 1, he's second player with the coin as Rogue. I feel like he's been doing this all day. Just getting the coin as Rogue.
It's a good thing to do, for sure. He doesn't have his Gadget yet, but as soon as he picks up Gadget, this is going to be huge.
Yeah, this hand is nuts.
And coin Tomb Pillager, one of the strongest plays in Rogue, because you just get that coin right back. So pretty much whenever you can coin Tomb Pillager, you aim to try and coin Tomb Pillager.
And Dark Oracle comes out. Still not enough to enable the Twin Emperors, but it's close enough. One more enabler and we're going to be there.
Well, this is a bit awkward. He doesn't have great ways to combo the SI7.
I mean, you can always just prep
fan.
Yeah, prep fan's okay.
Yeah, there you go. You get a cycle one of these preps for sure. You got to dig towards Gadget.
Well, you have the other prep, so quite frankly, like the moment I would say maybe if the hand was filled with weaker cards, it would feel a bit scarier. But it's full of really good stuff. You get a coin back, and now you're forcing a swipe.
Yeah, he's tempoing out quite nicely for sure. The Violet Teacher token's only vulnerable to swipe.
Yeah, you really are forcing that one swipe, and look at that. That is one of the best draws.
Yeah.
Enabling the Twin Emps, using the Wrath in conjunction with the 2 damage, allowing him to also ping off one of the 1/1s.
Yeah, not to mention the fact that Cthulhu's a 10/10 now. You could honestly innervate that out next turn. What's Rogue going to do?
Yeah, sap it.
Yeah, yeah.
You want to sap my Cthulhu?
They need to have like Shadow Strike a Vis fan or something. It's just like it's so difficult for them to remove.
So maybe there's an argument for keeping it just because you can make it the biggest you want to make it the biggest you possibly can. Oh, you
Hey,
know
if it
what?
clears the board.
Could this ever be a turn where you just all in on Van Cleef?
Van Cleef, coin, Shadow Step, Van Cleef, Van Cleef.
Yeah, just like complete nuts Van Cleef.
Backstab your 1/1.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Well, might as well
Prep the
backstab it.
fan.
You have to prep the fan too, otherwise it's not a real all in.
He's going in.
I think you don't have the choice if you want to win the game.
It's
You've
time
seen
for
like
the 100,
double
100.
wild growth. Double wild growth, and the guy's been
Alright.
curving okay. So getting like an 8/8 Edwin.
Is he going to go in with coin, Shadow Step? He
I
could
would-
coin, Shadow Step, play it again. It's
I wouldn't mind it.
+6, +6.
And what is that Shadow Step gonna do, Leroy? It's not gonna
Yeah.
get better than a.
Your opponent's only got 3 cards.
Well, if he mulches, you get a big dude anyway, right?
Sometimes.
Always.
Always.
In this spot, always.
You can trade up with Cthulhu if he goes for it. He's really thinking about it.
I think I might consider it. What else are you gonna do? Like double SI?
I love it.
Oh,
I
man.
think it's the play.
I think it was too late. He
It's
realized
too late.
I
He
feel- at the
wanted
end
to
of
do it, but it was too slow.
I feel like that's exactly what happened at
Oh,
the end there.
God.
And the 11-11 is going to come out, but that's the thing. Sifka can trade with the Cthulhu more likely than not. The issue is the amount of resources you're throwing into this.
Oh,
That's a
man.
lot. Oh, wait. Backstab SI Evis.
Holy smokes.
He might keep his 80.
his A2's going to live.
No way. No way.
Yeah. You can double Avis kill that, keep the 8-2 around.
Wait, he can also Shadow Step the Edwin afterwards.
Yeah, he can Shadow Step the
And
Edwin.
play it.
Well, he can't play it. Costs 1 mana still.
Oh, you're right. Well, no. He's got. Oh, yeah, he's going to be at 7 exactly.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, 1 mana off, otherwise that would be the most
Well,
insane
wait, you just
turn.
go backstab Evis, dagger, take the hit from the Cthulhu, then you do the
Yeah,
Edwin.
then you do the
redo
Edwin.
the Edwin.
You sure? Yeah.
Then you win next turn.
Then you win.
Maybe-
Do
maybe-
you win?
I'm not sure.
I mean, it didn't get mulched, right? So we got the test for mulch out of the way. So I
Right.
think we can safely go all in harder now.
I don't mind it.
I love it. I mean, I loved it last turn. I love it this turn.
Yeah.
We're running out of time, though. This rope's going to hit soon.
All right, I think he's just gonna go for the. Wait, he's gonna go for the Evis. I
We're
mean,
gonna see.
we have to see whether or not the SI gets played. That's
You do
the
have to
big
take
deal.
11 damage here if you want to try and make the big Edwin. I like making the big Edwin.
And
It looks
he's
like
making
he queued
it.
it up.
He's
He's
doing
making
it.
the big Edwin.
All right, the big Edwin's coming out. He can't mess this one up. Did he mess it up? I don't know. StanCifka.
Did he play it in time?
I don't know. His face is showing.
Did he get it?
Oh,
All right,
okay.
he got it. He got
Oof.
it.
All right, I freaked out.
Yeah, I was scared too. He got even the dagger up, and everything's fine. He's got a 12-12 now.
His APM increased. I remember when he played the Hearthstone the first few times I saw him, the APM was not there. Now, on the flip side, though, I'll say this. The Twin Amps,
One of the best answers to this. for
right, it's really tricky because the opponent's on kind of clock where now with the 2/4/6s, Swipe and Druid of the Claw are lethals.
Sure,
And he's going to have to split himself really thin. And because he's got Cthulhu's Chosen on the back end,
Oh, now the catch it comes just in.
that is really salt inducing.
Right
That is
after he
rage
goes
inducing.
all in. Oh, that's painful. And you got to get the 3-3 down, right?
What if you just
Or
play
no,
Gadget?
Gadget, yeah, I think you play Gadget.
Scare him, and if he trades, then your SI gets still comboed into
Yeah.
with another spell.
I like that a lot better, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, just drop the gadgets in.
It's a big scare, though. I mean, you just put yourself voluntarily in a position where any 4 damage will kill you.
Got to do it. I think it's right. It's one of those hands he had. It's just your hand didn't have Gadget. You weren't going anywhere with it. You got to make something happen. If he'd waited longer, he'd be dead now. But I think playing Gadget there is really good because if your opponent has removal for Gadget,
You win anyway.
they're
you
going to
clear up.
kill you.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, man, that is probably going to be...
oh,
Druid of the Claw Swipe, we're talking about 4 possible outs there
Yeah.
in the deck. And that
and
is going to
there
be
it
it.
is.
No reward for the Edwin. I think if he'd gone for bigger Edwin the first time,
Yeah, he might have had a better chance here. So now
because Cthulhu was not.
it's going to come down to the final game, 3-3.
Again, for
Again.
StanCifka.
Yeah, it's
Um,
really close here.
I
But
feel like
StanCifka's got a slight edge going into the last match with Rogue going up against Reno Warlock.
it's so rough, man.
Yeah, Rogue is a rough class.
I mean, it's such a like. The thing is, at this point, you can beat yourself with a really bad draw. I'm not sure how much Rogue StanCifka's played before. I mean, he seems to play just fine.
Oh,
I haven't noticed like any clear, miss.
Yeah, he plays a lot of Rogue. His main practice partner is Super JJ.
Sure.
And Super JJ plays a lot of Rogue.
Interesting, because I haven't seen StanCifka play much Rogue as himself, when he's the one piloting the deck. I know he plays
Sure.
against it pretty well. It's just playing as a Rogue player. He's not a hardcore, die-hard Rogue
Yeah.
fan in general.
I wouldn't say he's like one of the top 5 Rogue players in the world for sure. I think he's just like, he's an okay Rogue player, like pretty average, right? So
He just, but he did identify when to go all in with the Edwin. Just like,
Did he identify when to go all in, or was he a little bit too soft with it? You
yeah,
know,
he might have
that's
gone.
one of the questions there. Imagine he makes the 12-12. Or no, it was 8-8 plus 6-6. So
Yeah, it was
14-14
that turn.
and then he just trades with Cthulhu.
Or just goes face.
Or just goes face and just races Cthulhu, you
and
know?
Cthulhu's like, oh, crap.
Because, yeah.
I got to trade more.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
those are kind of the decisions where, like, really, really tough decisions to figure out. Is this enough to go all in with? Do I need to go all in more with this? Can I possibly recover? Those sort of split decisions are what make the difference between the really great rogue players and the, you know, like, good rogue players. And
Yeah, I have to wonder, though, like, it was so weird because the coin and the Shadow Step still, you know, maintained value if you picked up a Gadget Sand.
Yeah,
You can
it would've
always
been-
just Shadow Step your Gadget Sand and they keep
Well,
it for a follow-up.
you don't really want to Shadow Step Gadgets and ever just because it's such a big loss in tempo. It costs 4 mana to replay again, so you're spending, like, 10 mana developing a 4/4.
But keeping the coin and the Shadow Step, they're kind of indicated that's what he was
Yeah,
hoping
I
to
don't
make
mind-
work.
Yeah.
But it's, I don't know.
Yeah, those are the decisions where I always like talk to my roommate Purple about. Like, Purple is really good at rogue.
I know.
and
Purple's just like there's these crazy plays. He's like, yeah, you just face tank, 12 here. You're
Yeah.
gonna be at 3 health, and it's still correct. And you have like 85% chance of dying to any cards he's got, but that's the only line of play you can take.
yeah, Purple will spot those plays like instantly.
Instantly,
And,
yeah.
It's just like, how did you even?
Yeah.
I can't do that much math that fast.
Yeah, you
know?
have
It's
a
like,
1-charge dagger on turn 4 against a druid with 3 minions. You just you use
Yeah, it's like.
deadly anyway, and you lose the game most of the time, but
yeah.
you're still fine.
And the good rogue players always know when to poke with the dagger. They're
Yeah.
always just like, yeah, based on your curve, and we expect him to have these cards.
On
You're gonna
turn
want
7.
Yeah, you're gonna want to dagger on turn 4 because you're gonna re-dagger on turn 5, but don't dagger on turn 2 because you're not doing.
You're not
blah,
doing
blah, blah,
anything,
like-
so it's useless. You might as well just play those minions with your coin, and then
yeah,
you
yeah.
just,
It's just
it
all
happens
of
a lot.
the like knowing when you're gonna re-dagger. Like turn 1, he'll tell me you're gonna re-dagger on turn 7. Turn 7 rolls around. I re-dagger on 7.
Yeah.
Like it just lines up. I'm like, how did you?
I picked up a Azure Drake. That's beautiful. It's just like it always lands up that way.
Yeah.
We listen to the good players. That being said, the match is starting. The final game of the day that will determine which of these two players is going to keep moving on. Now, the double Farseer list isn't exactly the best, but there's the Gaston Auctioneer already there with double Doom Pillager.
Yeah, if you talk about the nuts for this matchup, you're going to be talking about this because extra coins against Reno Lock is insane. The most important thing that I found against Reno Lock with Rogue is just making sure you play Tomb Pillager. Like, instead of removing your opponent's minions, like, instead of reacting to Twilight Drake or killing anything, I like just dropping Tomb Pillagers out at them and making them react to my Tomb Pillagers, giving me coins, and then gadget sending and removing their things after the fact. So I really like just ignoring all of my things my opponents do, playing a nice, real, interactive game of Hearthstone.
And just play your Solitaire.
Yeah, just play Solitaire. I think that's one of the better ways to play Rogue in this matchup.
I mean, I think playing Miracle Rogue is kind of like playing Solitaire with the opportunity for the opponent to come over and just knock the table over. Like
Sure.
they have that choice, but
So I favor playing Tomb Pillager here, even though Shiv Eviscerate would allow you to kill the Twilight Drake.
that is not. I mean, it's too much spell investment when you've got the gadgets in hand.
That's what I'm saying. A lot of players make the mistake here of actually killing the Twilight Drake, and I think Tomb Pillager is the superior play.
I feel like when you've got, especially with double Tomb Pillager, like the color of this hand
Yeah.
is basically saying, I'm going to play gadgets hand, whatever the cost is.
Yeah. So
You might get a little bit punished with like Spellbreaker, but it's still
just-
fine.
It feels so awkward playing a 5/4 into a 4/8, though. That's when it.
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah. I guess.
But
I guess it does feel weird because we're taught so much, by like the Trump teachings and stuff.
Mhm.
They're like, you have to trade, get the best
yeah,
value.
don't play your minion into a board where it's just gonna die for free.
Right, but this is the one deck where you just don't care.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, Shaman also. You just play stuff and it dies. It's like, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter, dealt 2 damage.
You're not playing Tomb Pillager for the minion. You're playing it for the coin.
Yeah.
If you could play the coin instead of Tomb Pillager, I think
play
you would.
You might play the coin for instead of Tomb Pillager. It's kind of like when Cut Purse came out. It's like, can I just cut this guy out and just get the coin?
Yeah, the
And,
coin would be insane in Rogue.
It would be broken.
It would be broken as hell.
break the game. From rags to riches. The ooze is used here despite the fact that there's no weapon equipped. The only target you've got is the deadly poison weapon, and even then, when it comes out, it's still not that big of a threat. So you're looking to target more of the Doomhammer matchups with this ooze, more so than anything else.
So we see StanCifka here going for a little bit of removal here. The Shiv SI cleaning up the minions.
All right, picks up the prep. Now, this is kind of an interesting spot because he did use Fan of Knives earlier to cycle
Yeah.
on an empty board, and he finds himself in a position where that Fan of Knives would have been great. It's not something you expect to happen very often.
I don't hate this play, but
Yeah.
I still would have preferred Tomb Pillager.
Yeah. Just prepare for that perfect gadge.
It's insane. When you just play only Tomb Pillagers and let all your opponent's minions take value trades, you usually get these kind of gadgets and cycle hands where you clear the entire board. But, you know, his play clearing the board was super efficient and very clean, so you can't hate it, right? It's
Yeah,
such
I would
a great
have a hard
removal play.
time arguing
Yeah,
against it.
exactly. Like, it's a very solid play for sure.
All right, well, there's the Tomb Pillager play where you just dagger up on the back of it to prepare for the deadly poison from the Gadget Sand turn. It's likely coming up soon.
Yep.
I mean, you're still 2 turns away from Twisting Nether, so even if you overcommit, it's down the Shadow Flame clearing you out, and you probably will be able to deal with that Giant by then.
Yeah, I like Tomb Pillager Dagger. Trade the 3/3 into the 2/2 to hedge your bets against some like Hellfires and those sort of things a little bit better. Force the Giant to try and trade into the Tomb Pillager. Because you don't want to take 8 to the face, but your opponent really doesn't want to take 5 to the face because you're rogue and you have so much burst in your deck and so much damage. So they'll oftentimes trade the Giant into your minions.
Yeah, I mean, is there ever a chance if Xieshuai keeps the Giant healthy, he just facelesses it, right? I mean, it's one of those positions where just on the basis of that knowledge, you might opt to make a removal play in StanCifka's shoes.
StanCifka is making...
The trade play with Cold Blood,
No, he's making the face play with Cold Blood.
Okay.
There's no way you trade here.
It's StanCifka.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's StanCifka. He
This is-
plays a lot of control decks. He primarily plays control decks.
He lost the coin during this sequence as well, so his ability to draw with gadgets and went down dramatically. I'm really not a fan of this play.
Yeah, I think it's forcing you to redagger in an awkward turn in the future.
Yeah, that as well. Like, I feel like you could take 8 from that Giant. He did take 8 from
He
that
ended
Giant
up
by
taking
killing
the 8,
it.
yeah, exactly,
I've-
where he might have died to board trades plus...
Yeah,
know,
if you play Tomb Pillager, it's very likely the 8/8. You know, even if it goes face, then you have the Tomb Pillager to trade into it, and you're able to draw cards with gadgets, and you'll find an answer for it. You have the Prep Eviscerate to clear it.
I think it really came down to the possibility of a faceless punishing you even further. It's kind of like it's a marginal play, it seems, but it's actually kind of a big deal because with only 1 sap in your deck, there's no way for you to reset that health pool.
Okay.
So
I guess
between
we
the PO and the faceless, and even taunts. I mean, we're talking about the Sun Fury hitting 2 minions, and suddenly your rogue deck just falls apart because there's only
Sure.
1 sap.
Having 1 sap does make you play a little bit differently, especially when you go in for the all-in gadget play that kind of relies heavily on sap, right?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
And double conceal sometimes also makes that play a lot more consistent.
Sure. He only has
Which
1
wasn't there.
conceal. Yeah.
Right.
So his deck list just not very fine-tuned to deal great against Reno Lock, so he's kind of making some different decisions with the deck list, I guess.
I mean, they're optimal maybe in the context of the deck he's playing, but they feel just awkward because that's not what you want to be doing. That Deadly Poison, however, is really weird.
yeah, this
That
is
one
another
is
weird play.
that one is absolutely
I don't get that one at all.
Okay, wait, there's
he could go like coin Deadly Poison because he's coining up to an odd amount of mana. So now when he plays like coin with his gadgets and auctioneer, he's going to hang 1 mana unless he's expecting, you know, to cycle into his 1 conceal, which is a bit unlikely.
So 1 card draw, quote unquote, was although he does pick up the Shadow Strike to go with this. Doesn't even have to prep if he doesn't want to. So that's a pretty good draw to make this hand a lot less awkward than it could have been. It also picks up a 3-drop to make this even more appealing.
It works out for him, I guess.
Yeah, it did work out in this case.
He gets so much less cycle, though, and one of the big priorities in this matchup is cycle because you have to close out the game in a very limited amount of time. The more time you give the Reno Lock, the more time you give them to find Reno, to find their board clears, and really start stabilizing. When they're at a higher mana count at the later stages of the game, they're much more able to deal with your board presence, and it gets really awkward for you after they Reno and then, you know, taunt up, and then your just window of opportunity to win the game's completely gone. So oftentimes, when you cycle your deck a lot faster, your win percentage goes up a lot more, which is why I favor a lot the strategy of ignoring their board, just playing your Tomb Pillagers, and then power cycling your entire deck.
Yeah, I think I can get behind that. Now, interestingly enough, though, Xieshuai does not have removal for the Gadget Sand. There's no Siphon Soul. Leroy is the closest thing to removal, which means he just has to smash it into the Gadget Sand, which, let's be honest, it's not what you want to be doing here.
No, it's really not.
It's supposed to be your edge. You know, your advantage in the matchup is supposed to be that combo play, and suddenly
I
it
think
isn't.
I think it's Rag and Pray.
I mean, if Rag ends up not working out and it hits face, then he's at 12, which means you're not too far off from killing him.
Yeah.
But on the
You
flip
can-
side, if Sap...
He is going to go with, instead, Reno Jackson and try and outlast StanCifka's ability to draw here. StanCifka having a Gadgets and Auctioneer stick obviously is absolutely insane for him. He's able to get a ton of draw on the back end of this.
All right. Well, there's always the possibility of just using the dagger for a little bit of board clear. The issue, like with the 3/3, if he wants to kill the Reno Jackson to play around Shadow Flame, you kind of have to.
Well,
Or find something even better off the top.
yeah,
It's not.
You can expect there's a potential Shadow Flame. You don't expect that there's any Twisting Nether. Obviously, the Twisting Nether would have came out there on the Gadgetzin and the Earthen Ring.
Yeah, of course. Unless he's drawing right into it, then you're not expecting it. And the Shadow Step with the Leroy Jenkins is preparing to take this Reno Lock to Paintown. This is a lot of damage coming out over the next few turns.
Not a lot of cycle, though, honestly. For a Gadgetzin sticking around, you can see.
Do you ever, do you ever not face tank this because Leroy is a possibility? You haven't seen Emperor. It's like 2 turns away at the very least for the combo to come out. It would be like an Emperor turn plus.
Well, the combo is
more.
still 20 damage, but you can heal out of it using the Earthen Ring Farseer while preserving the sap. So I guess he goes for it. Plays around AoE a little bit if there is some AoE coming out. So
Yeah, assuming Twisting Nether hits, which it could, this plays around it a tiny bit better. And there is the Doomsayer Siphon Soul, which is going to force some potentially awkward trades for Cifka if he wants to get rid of the Doomsayer. It's still kind of okay for him. All right.
There you go.
Now we're talking. So how much do you want to commit to the board? Back to that same question we were asking earlier. How much do you want to commit? There's no Nether.
there could be a Hellfire.
Yeah.
Could be a Shadow Flame.
There's a lot of coulds. I'm just...
You saw 2 4/4s not get AoE'd down, so maybe commit 2 4/4s again. Get a little bit of cycle going.
Sure. So you just kind of trade away the 4 damage from Drake.
The problem is he doesn't have a great gadget hand. Like after this backstab, he has a lot of blanks he could potentially hit. Which
There's Fan of Knives, which,
Yeah.
it's not great, but at least it cycles.
And there's also just minions he could hit.
Yeah. There's no second Violet Teacher at the very least. There's not much left in terms of minions, honestly. We've
Ooh,
seen
second backstab.
we've seen 1 Violet, we've seen 2 Tomb Pillagers.
We've seen 2 Earthen Rings.
Yeah, we've seen pretty much everything. at
1
this
SI.
point.
So
Yeah,
there's 1 SI remaining.
that's about
1
it.
Azure Drake remaining for minions, and not even Thalanos is remaining. So those are like the only 2 minions remaining in the deck. Every other card's a spell at that point.
Yeah, Backstab was the replacement spell that was found off the top. And he's going to Shadow Step the Gadge. Whoa! Where's your Leroy Burst?
He's gonna have to win the game on board control now. He's
No
no
more
burst
Cold
remaining.
Bloods.
He's got 1 Eviscerate for burst remaining in his entire deck.
There's no Cold Bloods. He's
Yeah.
actually used it for trade
He's got
onto the Giant.
10 damage and a Conceal remaining in the
That's
deck. And
never happening.
with the AoEs remaining in the Reno Lock deck, it's gonna be very likely for him to find ways to deal with concealed plays.
All right, well, this is a very conservative play for StanCifka, trying to still maximize the Gadgetzin value, which seems kind of inconsistent with the initial line of play that he took, where he didn't want to get maximum cycle off of his Gadgetzins by throwing away the coins from the Pillagers initially.
Yeah,
So...
I like this rag coming down here. You see your opponent remove all the burst from their deck.
That's what it was.
Oh,
that's
Edwin,
what he
the
was
other minion.
planning about. I was wondering exactly what he was planning to win on, and this is it.
Yeah,
That is pretty much the card that
He's
he
got
was...
2 preps left, right?
No, he's played both.
Oh, he's played both
Oh,
preps?
Both preps are gone.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. But Siphon Soul's out of the way.
Okay.
So really there's no spot removal left. So if you get the Edwin big enough, it's Twisting Nether or bust.
Looks like he's going for it. He's going to conceal here and then play the Edwin out. Potentially looking for another spell to go along with it. Hits another minion here. A little unfortunate for him. He had sap that he could potentially hit. Looked like that's what he was going for.
Yeah, I mean, you could just play the Leroy for trade. You've committed to not using it for Shadow Step, so if you're going to go the full Edwin way, the issue is the more cards you play, the less valuable the Edwin becomes. So
Yeah.
I'd rather just...
He's got it
Put it
down
out there.
as an 8/8.
And Shadow Flame suddenly.
The Shadow Flame's kind of insane here. Or
Yeah.
even just the rag sniping, But
Hey, if you just clean up the
Sylvanas Shadow
smaller
Flame
things.
is pretty crazy if he's able to find it.
And he's just going to go for a Faceless on Rag,
And then taunt him up.
and then taunt those up.
Yeah, it's
good
going
luck
to be
going
tough
through
for
this.
Stan to beat with only 1 sap and no bursts remaining in his deck.
Yeah, 3/3 is down, and the
Oh,
Fate. Well,
face.
that's actually
Okay.
the best outcome for StanCifka of all the possibilities.
He might be able to pull it off here.
Wow, what an insane Rag double hit. Xieshuai, like the face he's making
Yeah.
right now.
He's
is
upset.
It's disbelief at its finest. I
Yeah.
can't even believe what just happened. I mean, these 2 Rags missed the 2 prime targets.
Yeah, that's a bit unfortunate. This is like one of the only ways that he's able to lose this series is if these rags go this way. So
Yeah.
StanCifka trying to figure out the best way to do this.
Starts
here.
with the Drake.
Able to find the Eviscerate.
Yeah. So he's got the possible Fan of Knives plus Eviscerate.
Yeah.
The Sap can be used.
Killing off the gadget to try and avoid drawing cards here.
Not overdraw, knowing full well he's going to be drawing his entire deck at this stage.
He's got 1 card remaining in his deck. So the Eviscerate and Face Tank 9 would leave him pretty dead to Leroy Power Overwhelming, though.
Yeah. I mean, he knows he's going to die to it.
But
I feel like you might have wanted to use the Sap first to draw 1 extra card, unless the fatigue matters that much.
What other card would help him, though? He only runs 1 Sap.
Was the other card left in his deck? That's what I haven't kept track. Like, I think he's played pretty much everything, barring another damage spell.
Yeah, he's used 1 Eviscerate already, so it's not the second Eviscerate. It may be Shadow Strike.
No, it's already been used. So we're missing one of those early cycles. Maybe the second.
Second Deadly? No, he's used a Deadly earlier on.
Both were used. Yeah, there's 1 card left in StanCifka's deck that I hadn't paid attention to, but Xieshuai is going to take it. China is going to be proud.
China's going to be proud. Yeah, I wasn't really a fan of how StanCifka played that last game.
It wasn't. I think it's very consistent with his play style in general, which is why I mentioned before the match started, like how much Rogue does StanCifka really play? Because I know he plays against Rogue rather well, because he's just used to playing, against the Rogue deck. But I don't think it's something that I've seen him play, too much of. Kind of like Tice. He can play Rogue pretty well, but like how well compared to maybe somebody who specializes in it.
Yeah, definitely not on the same level as the Rogue experts that are out there. So
like you. You're actually pretty good at Rogue.
Oh, thanks, dude. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't played Rogue in a long time.
Yeah, it's been a while since I saw you play Rogue every single tournament. But
yeah, I used to play it every tournament though.
Yeah?
I used to bring Rogue and Freeze Mage every single tournament.
No matter what, no, didn't matter. But they were also good no matter what. That was one of the differences.
Yeah, my highest win rate combination in Conquest was Rogue, Freeze Mage, and Face Hunter.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I can attest to casting those games.
At one point, I had the highest win rate in all of the people that played tournaments with Freeze Mage and with Rogue. And people were like, those decks
suck. Yeah, they're terrible.
They're terrible.
Nobody should be playing those ever. They're just bad. But I mean, it's just a meta call. I think Rogue would have been fine here. The second Sap being in that deck would have made a lot of difference. I think the way he would have just played that early game or that mid game would have changed dramatically, because you could tell that he was a little bit less willing.
Yeah, he was definitely like scared going for the gadget play.
Right.
He was scared of the 8/8 for some reason. Like, you can take 8 damage from the giant and be fine. Like, you playing Rogue should never let them be able to ever get the combo off.
Yeah,
like, they should never have enough time. You should be able to cycle your deck fast enough that if they take a turn to play Emperor, you're going to kill them.
Yeah.
So
that's the idea behind it, which is why the double Cold Blood lists are so powerful.
Sure.
And this is why this list is missing just a little bit more. Like if at any point those Earthring Farseers had been spells that dealt damage instead, suddenly the matchup is very different.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Anyway, congratulations to Xieshuai for the win against StanCifka. StanCifka is unfortunately going to be knocked out, and we'll have a Chinese player in the group 3, on day 3, that is, of the final stages of the tournament. So Group A is now over. Sixo and Xieshuai, 2 players whose names sound very similar and start with X, are going to be making it through. And tomorrow we'll have the Group B. We'll have Neyman playing in the group alongside
Dr. Hippie,
Hoi, and Izoro, a Chinese player as well, who's ranked pretty highly, from what I understand, on the Chinese region. I mean, there's a lot of Chinese players, so it's tough to perform on ladder as effectively. So these players, I mean, Neyman was, the last time I saw him play, brought a really aggressive lineup.
Yeah,
like
Pirate Warrior.
The most aggressive lineup that we saw. It was almost meme-y, to the point where we didn't believe what we were seeing. Like, is this for real? And it was just pure aggro.
Oh, yeah.
And he made it through the day.
Face.
Yeah, I mean, he can't do much.
He made, like, our day casting that series, usually it takes like 6 or 7 hours to cast the whole group, and
Neyman
we clocked it out in like 4. Neyman was just crushing it that day.
That's true.
So
that
was a good day of work for us.
Yeah, it worked out pretty well for the casters at the very least. And the viewers sometimes don't want to see all the Resident Sleeper Control Warrior matchups. That being said, we'll be back tomorrow, guys, for Group B of the casting.
Well, we got an interview still.
Really, I don't speak Chinese. So I get maybe it's going to be broadcast on the English
I don't know if it is or not.
All right, well, we can...
We may or may not have an interview.
We may or may not.
It's going to be in Chinese.
Right. Either way, just letting you know, tomorrow at 4 a.m. CET is going to be the broadcast number. Do I know, AM is not something...
I always wake up at 4 a.m. to watch some Hearthstone. That's... boom, Hearthstone 4 a.m. Let's go.
I'm playing Hearthstone at 4 a.m. I haven't slept the night before all night through. I'm just playing.
I mean, who really sleeps nowadays, right?
for the
It's
week.
just all Hearthstone all the time, right?
Yeah, I don't.
If you're not playing Hearthstone at 4 a.m., you're probably not. You're probably a filthy casual, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we better see you guys there.
Yeah, 4 a.m. CET. It's going to be the next day of the broadcast. That being said, I still, I'm waiting on word for whether or not we have the interview. It's hard to close off the show, and I don't know what's next on the show.
All right, it looks like we are closing off the show.
All right, let's close off the show then. See you guys tomorrow. Take care of yourselves from Firebat, myself, Frodan, who's not here, and all the StarLadder crew. See you tomorrow.
It is the year of the Kraken. Our heroes return from the frosty winter to the sea. Have a game under the warmth of the Hearthstone. StarLadder I-League StarSeries Finals. Having slain countless opponents to reach this point, Chinese players Xieshuai and Aichoro shall join the masters of the game Xieshuai, Naima, Hoi, Jabba, Dr. Hippie, StanCifka in Shanghai for a shot at taking the throne. From the highest-ranking ladder players to the hidden dark horses, who shall reign supreme? Conquer 4, 5, ban 1, double elimination. Will the champion once again remain in China, or shall a new victor emerge? July 8th to the 10th. Start from 10 a.m. Shanghai, China. Come and witness the tournament of the century.